Hey, I'm 𝗩𝗶𝗱𝗲 and welcome to a new series called Emacs Goodies, in which I'm going to be talking about built-in major modes or minor modes in Emacs that are little hidden gems that not a lot of people know about or are not that popular. The first thing that I'm going to talk about today is something called type break mode. Now, type break mode reminds you to take a break after typing. After typing of some time, you can configure it just like everything else in Emacs. It is highly customizable and it is very, very useful. I use it a lot because I always forget to start some type of Pomodoro timer after starting Emacs, and this will remind me. So, as an example, I will show you how I have it configured, and hopefully that will give you some ideas as to how to use it in your configuration workflow. So, first thing I'm going to do is jump to my configuration, readme.org. I have it as an org file, and I will jump down to the section where it is type break. Now, in here, I'm using use package to configure it. It is built into Emacs 29. If you're an earlier version, you can download it from 𝗩𝗂𝗋𝗃 and use it. But this is how I'm configuring it. Now, since I gave you a high-level overview of what type break does, I'm going to show you the hooks, the customizations, and then I'm going to call it, and so you can see how it looks. So first things first, I have a few hooks here, and I use 𝗩𝗏𝗏𝗃 for my Pomodoro timer, but like I said, I always forget to start it when I do Emacs. So whenever after Emacs starts, I have it in the initialization hook to call type break mode automatically for me, which is nice. That way I don't have to remember to manually call it, because manually calling is the part that I have a hard time remembering. Next is that whenever I start or kill or stop a Pomodoro, type break mode will respond accordingly. For example, if I start a Pomodoro, I don't want type break mode running because that will stop my flow of the focus that I have going on at that moment. Next, if I start a break or if I kill Pomodoro, I want it to automatically start the type break mode, because sometimes I let the Pomodoro break end and I don't restart the Pomodoro, so this will just remind me to do it. So these are just handy little hooks that I have to remind myself to, hey, do the Pomodoro, or you know what, keep using type break mode, but just don't forget to take a break. That's pretty much it, which is pretty handy for me. Now, I am setting the intervals for type break mode. As you can see, it's pretty customizable. There are more customizable variables that you can do, that you can look into, but I will go over these and then I will go over the source code really quickly and show you how it looks. Now, I have the interval set to 25 minutes, which is that equivalent of a Pomodoro session. So if, let's say I start Emacs, the hook is called and type break mode is called. That way I can only spend around 25 minutes on doing something on Emacs before it reminds me to start a Pomodoro. And that's pretty helpful. Now, the good rest interval is when type break mode reminds you to take a break. It will require you for 9 minutes to not type on Emacs at least. And if you do start typing, I'll say, hey, your break isn't over. Are you sure you want to continue? And you can type yes or no. If you type no, it'll make you wait some more. If you type yes, it will just be like, okay, up to you. You're the boss. You do what you need to do. Next is type break mode interval. Now this variable controls if I'm typing and I say I want to take a break. It doesn't explicitly ask me. I'm being proactive about taking a break. I call type break. It says, all right, since you were proactive, let's take a minimum rest of 5 minutes and then you can get back to hacking. The previous one was when it reminds you, you need to take a 9-minute break. It says if you start typing at 5 minutes, they say, hey, you still have 4 minutes. Let's try and do that. But yes, that's the sum of those two. Now, type break query mode is the part that I find very handy. It actually queries you. So in the mini buffer, I will say, hey, it's time for a break. Do you want to take it? Yes or no? And if you type yes, it'll show a screen that says, hey, you have 9 minutes resting or however long. If you type no, it'll remind you in 60 seconds or however long you want to configure it. The next one is keystroke threshold. Keystroke threshold reminds you or sets a limit as to how many keystrokes there has to be before it does something. For example, if you set a minimum of, let's say, 100 keystrokes, but 25 minutes have already passed, it will not do anything. It will wait until you meet the minimum requirement of keystrokes before this has any value, as any real meaning. But if you go over 26,000, 2600 keystrokes like I have here, this is just my personal preference, then it will say, hey, you've gone over this, regardless if it's only been 3 minutes after you started type break mode. If I've gone over this many keystrokes, it'll say, hey, time for a break. You've gone over the limit. Let's do it. Now, type break demo boring stats. This one, it just shows some stats when you do when you call type break mode manually, which is pretty cool. It's just handy little information to have. Oh, one quick note I forgot about this is if you set them to nil, it says it doesn't matter how many keystrokes I've entered. If it's gone over 25 minutes, let's do it. And if I put nil right here, there wouldn't be a keystroke max limit, so I can type 1,000,000 keystrokes and it will just still wait for this to happen. So that's pretty much one way to go around it if you don't like that idea. Personally, I like this. It works for me. So far, so good. Now, these demo functions are things that type break will call when it's time for a break. There are 3 options. Like, actually, I can just show you because right now I have it set to type break demo boring, which just shows the configuration, how long it's been, stuff like that. But there's 3 other functions built in. So let's go ahead and call those functions and see what they are, because I'm pretty sure I forgot. So you see right here, the original values are a demo live and Hanoi, the Tower of Hanoi, I believe that's what it's called. But yeah, those will run when you call type break mode, and it's pretty nice. It's like a little wall screensaver that just shows you information or animations, things like that. I personally don't like these 2. I didn't really find them that useful. I find how much time has passed more and the statistics, at least for me, more useful. So up to you. You can create your own as well, but you just have to take care of some things. If you look at the documentation for it, it'll tell you exactly what you need to do if you build your own function. But yes, this is exactly how it looks. Now let me show you what happens once you pass a certain threshold. So I'm not sure how long I've been at this for a while, so I'm going to manually trick it into thinking that it's time. So let's just say 300 keystrokes. Let's go ahead and set that. And so if you can see the mini buffer, it says typing break due in -576 keystrokes. So that's just something that happens because I already went over the threshold and I manually changed it while type break is going. So this might break it if you do this. So before you start it, make sure you configure it properly. But anyways, it should, so this is what happens when you go over. But if I call manually, oh, it fixed itself for some reason. Okay. Interesting. So let's go ahead. If I do 100, then maybe that'll work. Yes. So if I just keep going like this, it will eventually remind me to take a break. So if I'm idle for a bit, oh, there you go. You can see in the mini buffer, take a break from typing. If you press no, it will remind you in 60 seconds, which you can also configure, like I said. But for now, let's put yes. And this is what happens. You should rest for 9 more minutes, press any key so you can see, so you can read right there. That's pretty much it. So what happens if you want to quit and the resting time is not over yet? Well, that's easy. You can just press any key input and then they'll say in the mini buffer, do you ought to rest, X minutes more, continue break, yes or no. If you say no, it'll leave you alone and then it'll remind you again. If you press yes, it'll just take you back to the previous screen. But that is pretty much how I use type break. I mainly use it with conjunction along with 𝗦𝘂𝗫𝗀𝗀 because it's pretty useful. But yeah, that is pretty much it. If there's any other package that you guys know that you guys think would make a pretty nice little video or another different way that you use this, I would really like to know. Let me know and maybe I'll make a video about it or I can learn something new. Regardless, let me know what you guys think, and thanks.